Greetings, family, and welcome to Baba Talks number 18. I know it's been a while, but I wanted to make sure I got back before the new year started. We're closing out 2021 and kind of want to close it out being a little productive. So, Baba Talks is back, and I promise to do more in 2022. But I want to share something with you because with everything that's going on with the pandemic, with everything that's happening with Omicron and everything that we're dealing with, I wanted to give some perspective on a few things. And I always try to keep these Baba Talks short. So I'm going to keep it short. But in the future, I also want to offer more perspectives on some of the things that we're dealing with as a storyteller. What I want to talk about today are the mask mandates. In schools, there is something different that is happening from what the public perception of what is happening in schools. Something very different. So I'm going to give you an example because I'm in different schools. I tour different schools, so I end up in different districts. But to illustrate this point, I'm going to use something that happened in a classroom that I was in, just to illustrate this point a little bit, because I want us to open up our conversation about what's happening with this pandemic and mask mandates and all of these things. So, in one school, I was dealing with TK and Kinder. So let's take the class that I'm thinking about that I want to share a little story with you about, TK Kinder combination sort of class. And I'm going to use a little boy in this class. Let's call him Bobby. Bobby, that'll be our example. So I enter into this classroom, and yes, by the end of this story, you're going to ask me, did this actually happen? And I am telling you, yes, this did happen. So I enter into a classroom, and it's not just storytelling. I teach speaking and listening skills, and I teach it all throughout every grade range. But this is a class of TK and Kinder. So I enter into this classroom, and the children are all seated in the reading area, or what we might call the story time area for the young ones. And all of the children are masked up. They have masks on. Everyone, that is, except for little Bobby. So before I take my seat, I look because masks are passed out in school. Every child, even if they don't show up at school with a mask, they can usually request a mask from a teacher. So I look at little Bobby, and I know his teacher gave him a mask. I know the teacher gave him a mask. I know this for sure. So I look at little Bobby, and I said, Bobby, do you have a mask? And you have to be careful with little children because, they're frightened by our size, our voice, our tone. So you have to be a little careful and tread lightly, a little gingerly when it comes to little ones. So I said, Bobby, do you have a mask? And his eyes get really wide because, I'm focusing on him out of all of the children that are seated there. And his eyes get wide and he nods his head. I said, Bobby, you're supposed to be wearing your mask? And he's nodding his head. And I'm trying to make him feel comfortable. So I said, Bobby, don't worry. If you need another one, we'll get you one. Do you need another mask? I said, okay, Bobby, I need you to get your mask and I need you to put it on. And this child, seriously, does this. And people, this is an example of what's happening in our schools. Now, I know many of you are like, my child would never do that. Bobby is probably your child if you're saying that. But we get this idea when we're dealing with some of these mandates and rules that there are these pristine conditions and that everyone is following every rule. And I mean, this is what we like to imagine, but it's so far from the truth. It's so far from the truth. But the reason why I'm sharing this story is because working with every grade level, I'm not partial to one of the, well, I am. I kind of like middle schoolers. I like working with middle schoolers. But in working with every grade level, there is a different me that I have to bring to each developmental stage of these children. But I'm recognizing something in the way that I deal with the very young children, the TK and the kinder. I find myself being very patient. I'm a patient person anyway, but even more patient with the little ones. And I'm discovering that this ability to bring the most patient me, what I call the best version of myself that I can, it also creates an environment of trust. It creates an environment where the children feel safe. And then I had this thought, what if we all provided that environment to one another? What if, when we approached one another, we approached each other with this idea of providing a safe environment for one another? What if we approached one another and we tried to bring the best version of ourselves that we can? Now, I know this sounds a bit Pollyannish. Hey, I'm clear on that. I've lived, I've been around. But there are those of us capable of this who fall short sometimes. You know who you are. Maybe we can create a contagion that's stronger than Omicron. And this contagion can be that whenever we go out and we bring the best versions of ourselves that we can, in spite of what we're dealing with. I had a lot of patience with little Bobby. I mean, I was disgusted that his mask fit in his mouth and he had been chewing on it. But that being said, you know, to each his own, right? I'm going to cut this short. This is just me meandering a little bit. Baba Talks number 18. Subscribe to the channel and click on the bells, click on subscribe. You know all that jazz, right? And if you're interested in hearing more stories, go to bobathestoryteller.com and click on the shop, and you can peruse a lot of the stories there. I wanted to get this out before we ended 2021, but I'm also going to be getting out a lot of stories that I've been telling in classrooms. I want to go ahead and publish those on the YouTube channel. So until I pass cross, as I always say when I'm signing out, Doni Doni, Kononi Be Yagada. See you soon, my family.